For much of his career, Craig Melvin has been recognized as a steady, thoughtful presence on Today, guiding conversations that range from breaking news to deeply personal human stories. Yet as he moved into his 40s and began interviewing more researchers, physicians, and aging pioneers of innovation, Craig began speaking about the emotional weight he sensed in certain interviews, brilliant scientists describing decades spent chasing answers that remained just beyond reach, cancer researchers who had lost patients they had come to know personally, climate experts burdened by data that foretold troubling futures, and retired engineers who admitted that the thrill of discovery was often intertwined with long stretches of isolation. For a generation now standing at the threshold of retirement or already adjusting to its rhythms, this theme of unanswered questions carries a particular poignancy because they too have lived through seasons of striving, careers built, children raised, dreams adjusted, and have come to recognize that fulfillment is rarely a straight line, that sometimes the most meaningful work is done quietly, without applause. Craig recalled interviewing a physicist in his late 60s who described his laboratory as both sanctuary and exile, a place where ideas flourished but where personal milestones were sometimes missed. And that admission lingered with him long after the segment aired, prompting him to consider how many viewers might see their own lives reflected in that tension between dedication and distance. Lindsay, ever perceptive, observed that athletes she covered often spoke about the loneliness of training, the early mornings and repetitive drills invisible to fans, and together they saw the common thread. Excellence often demands solitude, yet solitude can exact an emotional toll if not balanced by connection. As Craig listened to aging scientists recount experiments that failed more often than they succeeded, he began to appreciate the quiet resilience required to persist in uncertainty, to wake each morning not knowing whether years of effort would culminate in a breakthrough or dissolve into footnotes, and he sensed that this uncertainty mirrors the broader human condition faced by those in their 60s who may be caring for aging parents, navigating health concerns, or wondering how their own legacy will be measured. He found himself asking different questions on air, not only about findings and funding, but about doubt, about the nights researchers lay awake wrestling with equations or ethical dilemmas, about the spouses who waited at home with patience and pride. Lindsay's steady presence became a grounding force in these reflections, as she reminded him that while ambition fuels discovery, relationships sustain the discoverer, and the two of them spoke often about the importance of making room for laughter and shared rituals amid demanding careers. In one especially moving segment, Craig interviewed a neuroscientist who confessed that after 40 years in the field, the most humbling realization was how much remained unknown. And rather than framing that as failure, Craig gently reframed it as testimony to the vastness of creation, a perspective that resonated deeply with viewers who have themselves learned that wisdom often grows from acknowledging limits. He thought about his own children watching him prepare for broadcasts, about the example he wished to set, not of relentless achievement, but of curiosity tempered with humility. And he recognized that the scientist's solitude is not merely physical isolation, but an emotional landscape marked by hope, disappointment, perseverance, and quiet faith that the search itself holds value. For those who came of age in an era when the moon landing felt like a collective triumph and medical advances transformed once fatal diagnoses, the narrative of discovery carries nostalgia and reverence, yet it also invites introspection about the personal costs borne by those at the frontier of knowledge. Craig began to articulate in conversations both public and private that perhaps the unanswered question is not a void to be feared, but a space that keeps the mind alive and the spirit engaged, much like the open horizon invites continued travel even when the destination is uncertain. Lindsay noted that in sports, as in science, the scoreboard rarely captures the depth of preparation, and Craig extended that analogy to life itself, suggesting that retirement is not an end to inquiry, but a shift in focus, from professional milestones to personal reflection, from public validation to private meaning. As he and Lindsay shared quiet dinners after long days, they found comfort in acknowledging that neither journalism nor science offers complete certainty, yet both offer the dignity of pursuit. And in telling the stories of solitary researchers, Craig was also offering his audience a mirror in which to see their own decades of persistence honored. The emotional arc of the scientist's solitude, as Craig came to understand it, is not defined solely by breakthrough moments, but by the steady courage to continue asking, to accept that some mysteries will remain unsolved, and to find companionship along the way. And in this recognition lies a gentle reassurance for those in their 60s who may look back on unfinished projects or unrealized ambitions, that a life spent seeking truth, nurturing relationships, and embracing humility is itself a profound discovery, one that does not require a headline to be meaningful.